Good day everyone. We are the Group 12 and we are here to present the advancing effective management in the public sector. Public organizations perform crucial function and it is imperative that they perform them effectively. All of the previous chapter have in some way described possibility of effective management of public organization. This chapter covers some more summative approaches to the topic, including general issue about the performance of public organization and review profile of well-performing organization in both the private and public sector. It then reviews some recent trends in managed reform and the pursuit of high performance that have had important influence on public management. The performance of public organization. Criticism of government and its components such as government official, organization, and employees is a thriving industry in the United States and in many other nations that allow freedom of expression. Many people make their living in a whole or in a part in this industry, and virtually all citizens contribute to it in some way. Like other industry, it's great problems such as information pollution, that is distortion and excesses in reporting and analyzing of government. At the same time, it is an absolutely crucial industry because we control government in the part by scrutinizing and criticizing it. This industry also illustrates the point that the history of culture of the United States have in many ways drawn the fundamental assumption that public organizations are beset with the performance problems such as red tape and efficiency, whereas private business firms perform more efficient and effectively. Profile of corporate excellence. To examine some profile of corporate excellence, we might delve back into the recent history of the managed literature. Peter and Waterman's In Search of Excellence, now somewhat dated, apparently became so popular because it's forged beyond complicated debates about organizational effectiveness and put forth stimulating observation about management in excellent firm. Although the author's conclusions actually echo much of the earlier literature on human relations in organization and organizational repose of complexity. Research of effective public organization. Strictly, the corporate excellence literature turned on their head some frequent observation about the problem of public organization. The Civil Service Reform Act of 1978 institutionalized the belief that weak links between paying, firing, and performance cause public organization to perform poorly, and this belief has continued to play a strong role in discussion of governmental reforms. The writers on corporate excellence said that although the best profits orient firm tried very hard to recognize and reward excellent performers, they also emphasize a cultural of communication, shared values, and mutual loyalty and support between of organization and its employees, as well as the centralization, flexibility, and adaptness. Trends and developments in the pursuit of effective public management. Besides the research on effective public organization, a number of trends and developments related of the pursuit of effective public management are worthy of attention. A vast array of such activities and initiative goes on the constantly, and previous chapters have covered many of them, such as a government performance or government performance project, application of the balanced scorecard in the public sector, and the Government Performance and Result Act, and the efforts at strategic plan that it required.
Total quality management. In the past 2 decades, organizations throughout the public and private sectors have undertaken total quality management programs. The widespread implementation of these programs makes it important for public managers and students of public management to be aware of TQM. As we will see, TQM also raises challenging alternatives for management, and it has clearly influenced the objectives of current government reform efforts, described later in this chapter. For example, focusing on the customer, the use of teams, and continuous improvement, and the literature on public management, and also provides an interesting and insignificant example of the dissemination of ideas and techniques in public and private management. The term total quality management refers more to a general movement or philosophy of management than to a specific set of management procedures. Different authors take different approaches to TQM. Edward Deming, one of the founders of this movement, who developed many of the original ideas behind it, did not refer to his approach as total quality management. In fact, he disapproved of this label. Yet, a review of some of Deming's seminal ideas provides a useful introduction to TQM. The Reinventing Government Movement. Osborne and Gabler's book Reinventing Government, made in 1992, became a bestseller during the early 1990s and influenced many government reforms in the years since its publication. Brodney, Hebert, and Wright, 1999, Brodney and Wright, 2002, Gore, 1993, Hennessy, 1998, Kearney, Feldman, and Scavo, 2000. Its approach and its success resemble those of Peters and Waterman's In Search of Excellence, and one can its approach and its success resemble those Peters and Waterman's In Search of Excellence, and one can appropriately characterize Reinventing Government as the public sector equivalent of that book. Like the other studies of excellence in public management described earlier, it provides provocative and challenging ideas about approaches to public management and the delivery of government services. Interestingly, however, its perspective on the state of performance in the public sector was mixed. The authors introduced the book with the claim that in many ways, government is failing and breaking down. Yet, they also argued that government plays an essential role in society and has to define and carry out that role of effectively. Hence, the need of Yet, they also argued that government plays an essential role in the society and has to define and carry out the role effectively, hence the need for reinvention. In particular, the authors attacked the old-fashioned, centralized bureaucratic model that dominated many government agencies and programs. They called for more entrepreneurial activities to supplant that approach. The National Performance Review. The Rego movement influenced the Clinton administration's National Performance Review or NPR. As with the other developments described in this chapter, the NPR deserves attention as a major reform effort in public management. Some experts regarded the NPR as unprecedented in terms of the activity it generated and the attention it received. The NPR involved a review of federal operations by a staff in Washington under the leadership of Vice President Gore. Among other activities, Gore conducted meetings with employees in federal agencies, ostensibly to gather ideas about problems and solutions, but also with the obvious intent of making a symbolic statement. The President's Management Agenda. The second President Bush was the first president to have a management degree, and early in his administration, he indicated an interest in management by issuing the President's Management Agenda. The agenda announced 5 primary government-wide initiatives: strategic management of human capital, competitive sourcing, employing competition to decide whether federal employees or private contractors should provide federal services, improve financial performance, expanded electronic government, and budget and performance integration. The U.S. Office of Management and Budget, or OBM, the U.S. Office of Management and Budget, or OMB, then issued agency scorecards to 25 major Fed agencies that were based on discussions with experts in government and universities, or U.S. Office of Management and Budget in 2002. The scorecards use a traffic light grading system for each of the 5 government-wide initiatives. A green light meant success, yellow meant mixed results, and red meant unsatisfactory. Performance measurement and the part. As many of the developments described here indicate, during the last decades of the 20th century and the first decade of the new century, experts and public officials emphasized improving government's performance in various ways. Governments at all levels in the United States and other nations adopted systems and procedures for measuring governmental performance and for performance management procedures to try to use the measures to improve performance. Among many examples of such developments, the New York City Mayor's Office of Operations publishes on its website a citywide performance or CPR tool. This performance reporting system provides information on hundreds of performance indicators for all the agencies of the city government. The website allows a citizen to choose a city agency and then review the agency performance report, which reports on the agency's performance against numerous performance indicators for that agency.
The human capital movement. As mentioned earlier, other people besides members of the Bush administration have advocated reforms and improvements in the 5 areas that the President's management agenda targeted. The issue of human capital has origins and imperatives similar to the human capital issues in many state governments. This emphasis at the federal level responded in part to a purported crisis. This term human capital attracted its share of ridicule. A Dilbert cartoon in 2002 portrayed Dogbert, one of the regular series characters, talking to Dilbert's boss, who is always insensitive and inept, about human capital. Dogbert asked the boss if he preferred to refer to the employees as human capital or livestock. The boss said he preferred human capital because if they were to use their term livestock, the employees might demand, "Hey, Human capital may sound somewhat dehumanizing because it conjures up the image of using human beings like machines or other capital stock. Managing major initiatives and priorities, privatization and contracting out. These recent developments illustrate the point that effective management and organization in the public sector remains a crucial, dynamic challenge, a challenge that becomes especially apparent when we observe the implementation or failed implementation of new initiatives in government. Managing privatization. Government contracts with private providers are nothing new in the United States, but privatization has increased a great deal in the past several decades, with governments at all levels sharply increasing their contracts with the private sector. In addition, privatization has increased in service areas where it has been rare in the past, such as the operation of prisons. As chapters 5 and 6 mention, the expansion of privatization has raised questions about the hollow state, third-party government, and the changing nature of government and public management. Privatization, then, is a widely and increasingly utilized mode of service delivery that imposes problems on public managers but also offers them strategic options. Managing privatization effectively thus represents one aspect of excellence in public management. Privatization pitfalls and ironies. The example of Whitney's 18th century time overrun highlights one of the many pitfalls of privatization. In recent years, proponents in privatization, some of whom show an obvious ideological bias toward private business and against government activity, have promoted privatization as a bold new initiative. Yet, the Whitney example and thousands of similar ones remind us that privatization is as old as the Republic, and that although it has produced many benefits, its history has been fraught with scandals and problems. In addition, rather than offering a private sector alternative to government, privatization can lead to governmentalization of the private sector, in which government increasingly draws segments of the private sector into its sphere of activity.